Gladys Liu has been under ASIO investigation multiple times because of her ties to the Chinese Communist Party, because of her links to people who've been proven to be CCP agents. And, Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister of Australia, the Liberal Prime Minister, even today, as we're filming this, he was campaigning in her seat, trying to save her seat. And so that's where we organised the Kim Jong-un impersonator to go into and crash their press conference and just sort of say, thank you, Gladys Liu, for supporting my friend Xi Jinping. I'm a big fan of Gladys Liu, basically. And that was big in Australia today. So we've been sort of adopting very asymmetric tactics, very insurgent-based tactics to kind of get our message across, because we're such a young party. We're so small. We don't have big resources of the major parties. And so we just have to, think outside the box, ways to get our cause attention, so that people, wake up to the threat of CCP interference, so people think about the fact that our largest trading partner has 1 million Muslims in concentration camps solely because of their, religion. I mean, to me, it should be a front page issue every single day that Australia's largest trading partner, to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars, is carrying out the largest incarceration of an ethnic group based on religious status since the Holocaust. That should be front page news in Australia. That should be a key election issue.
It does seem like you have been getting a lot of press lately because of, your very, I don't want to call them publicity stunts, but your very clever
your
ways
asymmetric tactics.
Insurgency, yes. Thank you, Shelley.
Well, that's the that's the interesting thing. So I've been campaigning now for like 11, 12 months. I think I announced that I was going to run like back in May. So almost a whole year I've been running now. And this is really the first time we're getting real traction, which is a week out from the election. I mean, if you wanted to time it well, that's a good time to start getting some media traction. But for a long, long time, like 11 months basically, we had 2-3 articles, despite the fact that what we're doing is quite historic. I mean, I'm the youngest person to form a political party in Australian history. We've got the first Uyghurs to run anywhere in the entire world for election in a democratic country. We've got the first Tibetan Australian running for parliament. She's a refugee. She was born in a Tibetan refugee camp. We've got a Hong Konger freedom fighter who, left Hong Kong in exile to escape torture. He had friends that were tortured. He was a frontliner. He helped make Molotov cocktails. He's part of our party. I mean, what we're doing is really quite unique, and it's quite interesting. I mean, sometimes we've had more international press coverage than even in Australia. Like we had, for example, I think it's Zeitung, like the top Swiss paper, do a profile on our party. And then meanwhile, no one in Australia was profiling our party. So Swiss newspapers were interested, but not our own press. And I think they didn't want to really cover us because, one, they just sort of write us off automatically because, they're young and they don't have millions of dollars behind them. Therefore, why cover them? But on another level, it's almost like they don't want someone to come through that they can't control, that they can't, browbeat into submission. Because for 3 years now I've been doing this. I've weathered threats. I put my future on the line. They basically tried to, take away my education. I almost lost my entire future there. I've had death threats against my family. There have been times where I was almost made homeless because of the death threats against my family. My family didn't want me to be living at home, and I didn't have any money to my name. So, I was almost made homeless at a certain point. I had to weather, losing friends, losing loved ones, losing people I really loved because of the threats. People didn't want to be associated with me, even people who were close friends for a long time. And so I've weathered a lot over the past couple of years. I've really shown, I think, just through my conduct over the past 3 years, that when it comes to standing against CCP interference, I'm someone who will never back down. I helped organise the Peng Shui T-shirts at the Australian Open, where we basically challenged the Australian Open when they tried to ban any criticism of the CCP on the court.
Didn't they try to arrest you for that too?
It's crazy. I've been threatened with arrest so many times. I've been threatened with defamation lawsuits designed to threaten me with bankruptcy. I've even been threatened with jail time at a certain point in my battle with the University of Queensland when I was trying to reveal information about the university's corrupt relationship with Chinese government. The university threatened to take me to court for contempt of court, which carries a 3-year prison sentence in my state. So they've threatened me with jail time. They've threatened me with bankruptcy actions, they've threatened me with huge defamation lawsuits, which would bankrupt me because, I'm 22 years old. I've got no assets. I've got no money to my name. Been threatened with arrest. I've actually been arrested recently. I've been assaulted multiple times by supporters of the Chinese government on Australian streets. I've weathered threats. The Chinese government actually singled me out by name a couple times, criticising me, for example, Zhao Lijian, the spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry, he called me. He accused me of taking money from Taiwan to spread lies and hatred about China.
I was very jealous about that.
That's hilarious. You're not only backed by, the CIA or whatever, but then Taiwan.
Yeah. Well, so actually, Drew, can you tell us about the when you were arrested about a week ago?
Yeah. That's a new escalation in this whole, free speech crisis, I think, in Australia. Basically, we've got a candidate in the seat of Bennelong, which is in Sydney's northwest. Kyinzom Dhongdue. She's the first Tibetan Australian to run for parliament. It's a very diverse seat. There's a large Taiwanese population, large Chinese population, large Hong Kong population, etc. And people have accused us of racism because we're protesting against the CCP in the seat. But, that's just a complete lie, because that's conflating all Chinese Australians with the CCP. That is a complete lie. So many Chinese Australians came out to Australia after Tiananmen Square, came to Australia fleeing dictatorship, wanting to live wanting to live in a free democratic country. There are huge parts of the Chinese Australian community that are pro-democracy, that are very critical of the CCP. And we were protesting on their behalf, because there's so many times in Australia where I've been, approached by Chinese Australians who say, "Oh, thank you for what you're doing, Drew. I really wish I could support you, but I'm scared personally to join your protests, etc." There's a real level of intimidation and fear. I've had Chinese Australian friends I've seen Chinese Australian friends, intimidated by the Chinese government. Chinese Australian friends who faced, cars idling outside their houses every day for weeks on end. I've had Chinese Australian friends and Hong Kong Australian friends who were chased down the street and attacked by Chinese government supporters. They left their home and they had men waiting for them. I've seen Chinese Australian friends have their family members back home contacted by Chinese security police, intimidated. Multiple Chinese Australian friends, if they've been pictured next to me joining my protests, or even at one point my emails were hacked, and a Uyghur Australian friend who I was talking with over email, he was discussing the intimidation his family had faced. We found out that my email had been hacked by a Chinese IP address, and 3 days after my email was hacked, his mother in Xinjiang or East Turkestan was taken to the camps by secret police. And I think it was we think it was because the fact that he was speaking to me in Australia. We've faced that. It's terrible, the level of intimidation that goes on. And when I had that Uyghur Australian friend who lost a mother potentially because he was talking to me, that was something that hit me so hard. I couldn't sleep for days on end. I felt sick. That one almost destroyed me, And I only kept going because my Uyghur Australian friends, including him, were keep going, because, the Chinese government is trying to do this to mess with our heads. They want to do this to silence us. Please keep going. And I had to keep going, but it was such a dark thing.